Fine dust is bad for your health, but there's been no way to know exactly how much of it is in the vicinity at any given moment. Until now, an initiative in Stuttgart is building a network of sensors across the German city to measure how many of the dangerous particles are in the air in real time, and the data can be called on anytime on the internet. 400 of the devices have already gone online, and they revealed that last year, amounts of fine dust in the air exceeded safe levels a worrying number of times.
The city of Stuttgart in southern Germany. Some of the country's best-known car manufacturers are based here. Most families have at least one car, but lots of vehicles emit lots of harmful fine dust particles. This intersection is where Reiko Tschigner lives. He'd like to drive less, but that's easier said than done.
Public transport just doesn't take you where you want to go. Then you have no choice but to take the car. Because Stuttgart lies in a valley, cycling is also really exhausting.
Stuttgart is the fine dust capital of Germany. The tiny particles emitted in car exhaust can damage the heart and lungs. Tschigner measures levels of the particulates around his home at a station he put together himself. The data he collects is passed on to the website luftdaten.info. There, users can check to see how high levels are in real time in their neighborhood and throughout the city. When levels rise, Tschigner leaves his car at home. His measuring equipment came from OK Lab Stuttgart, which also provided online instructions on how to build it from scratch. It's made up of a processor and wireless chip, a USB power supply source, and 2 plastic pipes that shield it from the weather. Total cost, about €30.
Just put it together and stick it in the pipe. Then the hardware is ready to go. Of course, there's still the software, but it isn't hard to get it up and running. You don't have to program anything yourself.
Jan Lutz, the head of OK Lab Stuttgart, set up Luftdaten.info 2 years ago, after he discovered that just 5% of the city's residents leave their cars at home, even after fine dust alarms are issued. That bothered him. So he decided to do something to wake people up to the danger, by making the data more visible and more accessible.
It's a way to help people change their consumer and mobility behaviors. This area has been shaped strongly by automobiles. We have to do something and continue to develop our products. This should provide a little impetus for people to just stop and think, hey, what are we doing here?
The Baden-Württemberg state government in Stuttgart has already announced that in 2018, on days when fine dust levels climb too high, it will ban certain types of diesel cars. Urban climatologist Ulrich Reuter is responsible for the city's official measuring stations. He's generally in favor of the self-installed fine dust sensors, though he does have a few reservations.
It's certainly a good measure for raising consciousness if the devices are used properly, but there is a danger that data could be falsely interpreted.
How?
Well, say one person measures on the street, another in a courtyard. One says his spot is heavily polluted. The other says, here where I live, there's little pollution. But only because the two locations really can't be compared at all.
The movement to set up private measuring stations isn't confined to Stuttgart. People in other regions are also using them. 400 have been set up so far.
We're getting really positive feedback at the trans-regional level. People are enthusiastic and want to build one straight away.
The group has received inquiries from as far afield as South Africa. OK Lab Stuttgart is now cooperating with the organisation Open Data Durban, which tracks air and water quality there. In many of South Africa's cities, traffic is posing the same environmental challenges as it does in Stuttgart.
In Europe, Millions of tons of food end up in the rubbish heap every year, much of it from restaurants and cafes that have not been able to sell everything. A Danish startup wants to change that. NT knows more.
That's right, Sharon. Too Good To Go has developed an app that helps restaurant owners to pass on leftovers for little money at the end of the day before they are tossed into the garbage. Another example, a good one at that, of doing your bit for the environment.
Did you know you can reduce food waste with an app? When restaurants and cafes call it a day, they often have leftover food, which they throw away. That's how every year over 1 million tons of edibles end up in the garbage in Germany alone. The startup Too Good To Go wanted to do something about that. They developed an app designed to reduce food waste. With the app, customers can order food that otherwise would be thrown away. Later, when the restaurant closes, they can pick up their order. They just show the receipt and take home perfectly edible food for less than €4. The business earns a little extra and cuts down waste disposal costs. It's a win-win situation for everyone involved. Since the company was set up in 2015, over 1 million meals have been saved.
That. If you are also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.